The Amarr Empire Harbinger battlecruiser is a popular entry point for C2 Wormhole ratting. Being an energy turret ship, it's very popular with Amarr pilots who maybe want to eventually end up in something like a Paladin Marauder for C5 ratting. Like the Drake before it, it's a fairly cheap fit to get started with entry-level wormholing content. It may be an Amarr vessel, which you guys know I'm not a particular fan of. I don't like energy turrets, I don't like that golden bone coloration and that to it, but the Harbinger is a ship that I genuinely do enjoy flying, and it is surprisingly powerful. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to be showcasing just how you can fit this in order to run those combat sites quickly and efficiently to start earning excellent ISK. This ship will make its cost back in about 90 minutes of ratting, and from there, it's pure profit. Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for EVE Online, and yes, once again I'm apologising for my dislike of Amarrian ships. This time around though, I've managed to avoid the gold and bone colour scheme used on the Amarr vessels by using a spirit skin, so I can totally pretend this Harbinger is secretly Angel Cartel. It kind of works, honest. I know a lot of people play zoomed out and thus don't see their ships, but I still know I'm flying it and I still feel guilty, so this kind of skin really helps with that. Unfortunately, we are still having to use energy turrets. I know some of you really like them, I just don't. I don't get on with energy turrets particularly well, but we're stuck with them for the Harbinger. So why am I showcasing this then if I don't really enjoy that kind of ship? Well, Harbinger's pretty cool for starters. It may be an Amarr vessel, but I can kind of overlook that for the fact that it is a lot of fun to fly. And having already showcased the Drake for C2 wormhole ratting, and then kind of gone off on a little tangent looking at things like the Hurricane for the Minmatar Republic, the Harbinger is another popular entry-level ship for C2 J-Space ratting, so I felt it was in kind of my community's best interests to showcase it in action. Yeah, I will fly Amarr ships just to help you guys out. That's the kind of person that I am. Anyway, with all of that said and done, if you do want to help this channel out, please head across to my Patreon, my PayPal tip jar, or my Redbubble merchandise store. Otherwise, just hit like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your thoughts into the comment section down below. Otherwise, let's jump right in to talking about the Amarr Empire Harbinger as a C2 J-Space ratting vessel. Let's start off then by having a look at the Harbinger's bonuses. So, it is a battlecruiser, an Amarrian one at that, and I'm only on Amarr Battlecruiser 4 for the purposes of this video. Obviously, if you take this up to 5, you are going to get even better effects, but we're talking about a relatively cheap entry point, right? So, Amarr Battlecruiser, this gives us a 10% reduction in medium energy turret activation cost, 50% at full training, 40% for what I have, and a 10% bonus to medium energy turret damage, again 50% at full training, 40% with the Amarr Battlecruiser skills as I have them. Amarr Empire Battlecruiser 4 is enough to make this work, but if you do take it to 5, it's all the better. Reduction to activation cost of those turrets just means you can keep firing better and not having to worry about being neutralized so much, and the medium energy turret damage just means you clear the sites faster. Pretty self-explanatory, right? We then have a roll bonus, can use one command burst module, which we're not going to worry too much about, 50% bonus to command burst area of effect range, and a 25% bonus to medium energy turret optimal range and fall off, which helps us hit things from a little bit further away. So this is the fit. This is the typical dual rep Harbinger. And we're going to hit simulate on this because I know a lot of you are going to be looking at that there, the whole capacitor depleting, and go, oh no, that's awful. You know, that's with everything running, remember? So let's just turn off one of those dual reps and oh look, we're more than 50% cap stable. Nice. Nice and easy. It's pretty good, and you're going to be running that for the most part, but you do have the ability to click that on for a little bit of extra survivability if you need it in a pinch. Just remember to turn it back off again. So for the high slots, I've gone for a full brace of focused medium pulse laser 2s. These are really nice, especially with things like Scorch. Gives us some really nice ranges there. Look at that, optimal to 24, full off to 30, which takes us about to 0%, around about the 36 kilometer margin. So you've got pretty good range on that. And of course you can increase the DPS and reduce the range by swapping to something like Multispectrum, Gamma, or the other one whose name completely escapes me right now. But it's in the cargo bay, I promise it's in the cargo bay. Not Scorch, it's the other one. Conflagration, that's the name. For the mid slots here, we've gone for 3 Cap Recharger 2s to get that capacitor as stable as possible, because remember, a lot of neutralization goes on in J-Space combat sites, and a 10 meganewton Afterburner II in order to keep us mobile. For a battlecruiser, we are fairly small, which is surprising, in fairness. It's not too terrible. We get a decent amount of speed out of that there. You can see 478 meters per second, nice and swift moving. For the low slots, I've gone here for a Multispectrum Energized Membrane 2, and 2 of those alongside a Damage Control 2. This is just to boost up those resistances as high as possible, so we're taking as little damage as possible. We then have 2 of the Medium Armor Repairer 2s. These are each giving 423 hit points every 9.8 seconds. If we were then to activate both of those, then of course that's 846 hit points every 9.5 seconds, which is pretty nice. It's a lot of reppings, especially considering we've got pretty good resists there. You could go for another form of heatsink, another form of energized membrane if you want to really push those resistances up, like an anti-explosive one, for example, but honestly, I think those resistances are good enough with the rep skills that we've got, so a heatsink 2 is going to keep us going nicely. Finally then, for the rigs, Medium Capacitor Control Circuit 1, Medium Capacitor Control Circuit 1, and Medium Auxiliary Nano Pump in order just to make those armor reps that little bit better. For the drones, we are just running what we can here. You've got 50 megabits per second and a little bit of drone space there. So I'm currently, if I open that up, running Valkyries and Warriors. The reason I'm running Valkyries is so that Valkyries and Warriors is for the explosive damage. It just works nicely against those. You can really use anything, but I like the speed that they fly at as well. They're good DPS, good damage coming out of those, and a good speed to stick to the target. But you can absolutely use infiltrators and acolytes as well if you wanted, or hobgoblins. Whatever the heck you fancy, to be completely frank. It's not much. We're looking at an additional 113 DPS. Most of the DPS here is coming out of those turrets. Essentially, your final high slot that I haven't mentioned is, of course, the core scanner probe launcher. You don't have to have one of these, especially if you've got people scanning everything down for you, but it really, really sucks to be that guy who's ratting a site and someone else rolls a wormhole closed behind you, which is exactly what happened the other day and took me 20 jumps back to get into our J-Space home system. That was not fun. I had a C2 that was literally next to our home system. I jumped into it and the hole collapsed sometime while I was testing. I had to find a new exit hole back to low sec in that case to work my way all the way back home. Not fun. Make sure you have scanner probes on any wormholing ship if you can, even if you have to offline it for the time being and then online it later because you don't have enough CPU. Well worth it. Anyway, all of that said and done, let's see it in action. So let's showcase this in a perimeter hangar. I'm dropping the Harbinger in at 0 on this. I do apologise for the lag. You're going to see how, there we go, that double drop in there. How brutal my lag out here is in Zimbabwe sometimes. I do try to get the best footage possible for you folks, but it doesn't always work out like that. If I get several days on a trot when just our internet is just misbehaving, this was honestly the best I could get in 3 days worth of running these sites, testing this and getting footage. Now, obviously, the first thing we're going to do is drop a mobile tractor unit to start hauling in that sweet, sweet blue loot that is what earns us the ISK for this site. We then bookmark that MTU because we are good little children and good people bookmark their MTUs. Otherwise, we then drop our Valkyries. I'm looking at this and seeing it's 3 cruisers to 2 frigates. The Valkyries will do fine. Warriors, if you've got more frigates than you have cruisers, that kind of thing. Other than that, though, there's basically 3 types of ammunition we're going to be using for this site. And yes, I'm using ammunition. I know they're crystals, but sue me, alright? Ammo for everything else. I'm not bothering to remember crystals just because the bloody Amar have to be different. We are going to be using Conflagration when the enemy is close. Basically anything within 10Ks, we're going to be using Conflagration. Anything from, say, 10 to 20Ks, or 10 to 17 at least, we're going to be using Gleam. And if they're further than 17, 20 kilometers away, that's when we're going to start to use Scorch, because that gives us some really nice range to work with. You'll see that throughout this entire thing, essentially, yeah, it takes me a long time to reload, which is why this site is slightly slower than it normally would be. But again, if you're running under better conditions than I am, i.e. functional freaking internet run by a company that knows at least somewhat what it's doing, then you should be able to do this faster. Look at that double spin. Ugh, lag. No one likes lag. Again, use Eve Survival or my Wormhole PDF, whichever you want to do. If you don't know about my Worm PDF, by the way, my Wormhole PDF, I do have a document that I am constructing. It's available on my Discord, completely free for everyone to look through and give feedback on, etc. It's collating all different guides and breakdowns of life in Wormhole space. It has all of the information you could ever possibly need to get started with wormholing. Now, that includes a section on every single combat anomaly in J-space. So there is one for this perimeter hangar where you'll see what every ship, what ships spawn in every single wave, what DPS those ships do, what speed they fly at, what health they have, where they orbit, all of this kind of stuff, everything. But of course, most importantly, is just understanding the triggers, knowing which enemies you need to kill to trigger the next wave, or rather, which enemies you need to not kill to not trigger the next wave. Once you've learnt those, though, science become pretty simple. It's just a case of, in this case, looking and it's like, oh, it's more than 20 kilometers, cool, we'll use Scorch, we'll start shooting it with Scorch. If we get a little bit closer to it, then we'll swap to Gleam. If we get closer still, then we'll swap to Conflagration and just work it that way. It's just how this works. Nice and simple, nice and straightforward. Anyway, we are now just going to continue shooting everything. The Awakened Patrollers are the trigger for Wave 2. That's all that's left, so we just kill it until Wave 2 spawns, basically. And with that beautiful little explosion about to happen, Wave 2 has just spawned in. We've got a Sleepless Watchman, which is a battleship. The name Sleepless means battleship in these things, by the way. Awakened escorts 2 of those. Awakened is usually a cruiser. Again, you can tell from Escort and Watchman and things like that what the ship probably does. It's a great way to sort of get a bit of an understanding of those ships. You just learn the nomenclature and start learning the naming conventions. Anyway, so you can see we have spawned a fair distance away. It's not really in Scorch range at this point, so we are going to be moving in. You'll also notice I'm currently just running one armor repairer. I don't necessarily think I need the 2 at this point. I'm just taking a bit of damage because I'm at range and not really orbiting properly, but we can also activate the second armor repairer, which I did. You'll have noticed it just appeared at sort of 2/3 of the way through. You'll also notice I keep my armor repairers syncopated. They are out of step with each other. Essentially, this means that rather than getting one big heal every 8 seconds, I'm getting two smaller heals, one smaller heal every 4 seconds. And that works out better, in my opinion, because it means that if you're taking small little chips of damage, those small chips may add up to enough to push you into hull, whereas if you're going for the big heals every 8 seconds, they've got 8 seconds to get you into hull, whereas this way around, they've only got 4 seconds to get you into hull with less damage, and you can kind of, keep pushing it up that way. In my opinion, it just works better. I just don't know how to explain that properly. Anyway, we're now in proper Scorch range, so those Awakened Escorts, no idea why I opened the market there. Those Awakened Escort is now in range. I can start shooting at that. I can send my drones off after it as well. Again, be aware of yellow boxing. Drones will get shot at by enemies. If you see the enemies locking onto your drones and your drones taking damage, you should probably start pulling them back. They have been yellow boxed temporarily there, but it looks like the drones are holding out okay. I'm not too worried about it. I've not really bought spares. I haven't bought spare Valkyries, but I do have warriors to fall back on in a worst case. Now we're getting close enough, I can move into orbit the Sleepless Watchman, get nice and close, and once I start an orbit there, we're going to tighten that orbit closer and closer and closer until eventually I can start using short-range lasers to deal more damage. And so that's exactly what we do. Down goes the battleship, and then it's just that last Awakened Escort, which is a nice easy kill. Orbit it, kill it, Wave 3 spawns. Wave 3 is then a Sleepless Escort. Remember, Sleepless meaning a battleship, Escort meaning, well, it's got different abilities, and 2 Awakened Escorts as well. Awakened meaning cruisers. So I'm going to try and get close to that Sleepless Escort. I'm currently using Scorch, which is fine for the range we're currently at, but I want to orbit a little bit closer, start getting in towards these so I can start using the higher damage crystals to, well, kill things faster, right? That's kind of the name of the game here. Now, again, I am kind of not descanning as much as I should be. It's because I know I've got friends ratting nearby as well. You can see there is a friend warps in a moment just to watch me run this site. But I think I've kind of proven at this point in time that the Harbinger can run these sites quite comfortably, and ultimately, if you haven't seen it already, in a moment you're going to watch me bump into a rock, which obviously kills my velocity, kills my angular momentum and all that, and means I'm just a sitting duck for a few seconds. But there we go. We're still comfortably pulling these ships down piece by piece by piece, and then at the end of that we warp out, we warp back into the mobile tractor unit, loot the mobile tractor unit, scoop it, and off we go to our next site. It's that simple. And again, 15 to 20 million ISK per site in a C2, 15 to 20 minutes per site, 15 to 20 million every 15 to 20 minutes. A ship like this makes its money back very, very quickly, and then it starts becoming pure ISK very quickly, which means we have a few moments at the end of this video to talk about where you go next. Because I mentioned that kind of the point of the Harbinger is it's fairly easy to skill into. If you've been flying Amarr cruisers at all you need is Amarr Battlecruiser 4, and you're doing this. Whilst you've got Amarr Battlecruiser 4 and you're running these sites in a Harbinger, you can start training into other ships, and the two that most people in Wormholes are going to look at are the Legion. Of course, the Legion is the Amarrian Tech 3 strategic cruiser, and it does have a energy turret fit, which I've been running recently, and I will have a video out on that very soon, so you can see what that will look like when it's fully up and running. But also, if you're looking to upgrade from, so that will take you into C3s, sorry I should say, that will take you into C3s going into a Legion. If you then decide that actually you want to go even further, C5s for example, well, you can do that in a Paladin. Paladin is the Marauder for the Amarr Empire. All you need for that is basically to have got your medium energy turret skills to 3, then you start training into your heavy turrets, heavy energy turrets, large energy turrets, and your Amarr battleship. Once you've got Amarr battleship 5, you start training the Marauder skill, and boom, you've got the Paladin, a ship that will quite comfortably run C5 wormhole systems as well. Anyway folks, that's it for today. I've comfortably proven the Harbinger does this really nicely, really easily, even with terrible lag, so hopefully that gives you some insight into flying this vessel, maybe jumping into a C2 of your own and giving it a go. Let me know how you get on in the comment section down below. Come find me on Discord. Otherwise folks, happy sailing and see you in New Eden.